In the last video, we talked about the notch EQ and how that is able to identify and remove unwanted constant peaks from your audio. In this video, we're going to talk about the crosstalk reduction and how that is able to take your voice away from my microphone and vice versa. This will provide you with a much cleaner mix and also reduce the risk of phasing issues. To explain this further, let's jump into DaVinci Resolve and have a look at some audio. So we're back here in DaVinci Resolve, same project, same mix. I haven't done anything since the previous video, except make these little cuts to make it easier to see who's talking when. But today we're going to talk about crosstalk. So what is even crosstalk? Well, when you have multiple microphones active at the same time in an environment, all of those microphones are going to capture all of the sounds that is produced in this environment. And that introduces two different problems. First of all, noise floor. It will raise the noise floor of your mix significantly and make for a busier and muddier and more uncomfortable listening experience. So let's demonstrate by playing this little clip right here. And I'm going to mute and unmute these two other tracks.
They go some of the way, but the real cue here is that we have noise reduction, an enhancement that can actually remove most of that diffuse reverberation we hear in this space and make those voices stand out much, much clearer.
So as you can hear, it has a significant impact on the noise and the muddiness and the busyness of the listening experience or the mix. The other problem that arises when you introduce several microphones in a setup like this is phase. And to understand what phase is, we have to understand first that audio travels at 343 meters per second. And because of that given sort of traveling speed of sound, it's going to arrive at this person's microphone before it reaches this person's microphone. And we can actually see a visual representation of that if we zoom in over here. You can see that this direct signal, or the main speaker's voice, is hitting his microphone a little bit earlier than it's hitting this person's microphone. And we also see that at this point, for example, the phase is below the 0 point at this point in time, but on this track, it's above the 0 point. So that means that at this point, these two signals are completely out of phase with each other. And when the direct signal and the crosstalk signal is out of phase, it's going to cancel out frequencies. So basically, it's like slapping an EQ on your direct signal track with random cuts that you turn on and off in random sequences. So that's why we want to avoid phase issues. There's a few ways to fix this. First of all, you could just mute these two tracks like that. Problem solved. The main reason why you might not want to do it like that is because when you're having a natural conversation with someone, the people you're talking to are going to react to what you're saying. And that helps to build up under the story. It helps the listener gain another perspective on what the story is. So you want to keep all of these little reaction sounds. Now, to fix that manually, you would actually have to go in and mute the whole track, but then you go in and find the little reaction sounds, and then you unmute those specific little parts. Very tedious work. It's going to take forever, and it's really boring, and it's going to put a real dent in your concentration. But what if there was a way to fix it in a bit cleaner way? Well, there is a plugin here in DaVinci Resolve that helps you kind of do this thing. And I'm, of course, talking about just removing the crosstalk. And we have to go on the track level. So I have to actually click this track to find this plugin, because on the clip level, it doesn't exist. So make sure you're on the track level here. And then this plugin shows up, and it's the AI Dialogue Separator. With this plugin, you can just turn down voice. So that means you can turn down the voice on this track, which would be the crosstalk in this specific clip. Of course, in this specific clip, it's the direct signal of the person wearing this mic, so we don't want it to do anything over here. And that's when automation comes in. We have to automate this little slider here, up and down. So when it's over here, when this person is actually talking, we want it up. And when we're over here, where this person is speaking, we want it down. So that way we can remove the crosstalk. But it also means that we're going to have to do a lot of manual automation work. So just to give you a quick example of that, I'm going to turn on my automation controls over here. I'm going to go up here and turn on automation for plugins. And then we're going to go into this plugin here. And I'm going to put it to this slider instead of the mute functionality. And as you can see, it's set to 0 right now. But here, Sigurd is speaking, so I want to turn it all the way down. So first of all, I need to select this specific clip, and then I can just go in here and drag it down like that. And of course, we're going to have to do that for this track as well. So now I've turned down the crosstalk here because this person isn't speaking here. I'll turn it down there and there on this track. And over here, I've turned it down on these two clips because this is where that person is speaking. So let's just listen to that whole thing and see what it sounds like now.
But we do have our Nomono lavaliers. That's quite close to the mouth. They should fix some of the problems.
They go some of the way, but the real cue here is that we have noise reduction, an enhancement that can actually remove most of that diffuse reverberation we hear in this space and make those voices stand out much, much clearer.
When he was talking, you can definitely hear that something is happening to his direct signal, which is rather unpleasant. But as you can see, if we go to his track, it's not doing anything, or it's not supposed to be doing anything, but it definitely is. And it was the same thing over here.
But we do have our Nomono lavaliers. That's quite close to the mouth. They should fix some of the problems.
Even though it was not supposed to. I just want to listen to what the crosstalk actually sounds like with and without this thing. So if we solo this track, and we will now hear the crosstalk removed with this plugin on this track. So you can still hear traces of it, but it's significantly reduced, and I can prove that by turning it off.
Noise reduction, an enhancement that can actually
turn it back on. Also seems to have a pretty big effect on what the actual background noise sounds like. So let's try to turn it off again so you can hear. So it kind of works, but it doesn't sound fantastic. Now that we've dived a little bit deeper into this plugin and what it can do, I'm going to show you what Nomono's crosstalk reduction is capable of doing. So first, I'm just going to play this passage that we've played so many times now, and I'm going to play the whole mix.
They go some of the way, but the real cue here is that we have noise reduction, an enhancement that can actually remove most of that diffuse reverberation we hear in this space and make those voices stand out much, much clearer.
There's no phasing issues, and that's because we've completely removed the crosstalk. I mean, there's tiny little traces of it, and you can hear that here. Tiny little small traces of artifacts, but those are going to be masked by the direct signal anyway. So if I turn this on too, you will never hear those.
So some of the way, but the real cue here is that we have noise reduction, an enhancement that can actually remove most of that diffuse reverberation we hear in this space.
Even though the crosstalk reducer plugin from Nomono is active here, it's not affecting his voice at all.
They go some of the way, but the real cue here is that we have noise reduction. And
sounds very natural and very clean. And of course, the background noise is still intact. But then you might say, well, wasn't that a problem too? Raising the noise floor and adding these tracks is going to make it more noisy. And you're right. And that's what we're going to talk about in the next video when we start talking about Nomono's denoising plugin. Thank you for watching this video about the crosstalk reduction in the Nomono enhancement pipeline. In the next video, we're going to talk about the denoiser. The denoiser is really good, and a lot of people is very curious about it and how we are able to reduce that much noise without leaving any traces of artifacts. So stay tuned for that one, and I'll see you there.